You didn't lose your discipline. You never built the system that replaces it. Every decision about whether to show up drains the same bandwidth you need to perform. Elite minds understood this, so they stopped deciding. A habit takes 66 days to become automatic. Most people quit in 3 weeks. The psychology of staying unbreakable was never about willpower, and that misunderstanding is exactly where consistency dies. Every conscious choice demands energy. When you force yourself to perform, your brain initiates a silent transaction. Daniel Kahneman categorized this internal friction as System 2, the slow, deliberative, and expensive cognitive engine. Every internal negotiation, every slight delay, depletes the finite reserves of the prefrontal cortex. Roy Baumeister's research reveals this process as ego depletion. It is a biological tax. Long before your actual work begins, your mental bandwidth has already been drained by the simple act of deciding to start. The elite bypass this tax. They shift control to System 1, the fast automatic processor housed within the basal ganglia. This is the mechanical loop of cue, routine, and reward. By automating the trigger, they eliminate the decision. They do not negotiate with fatigue or distraction, because negotiation requires cognitive energy they cannot afford to lose. They simply run an automated script. What looks like extraordinary discipline is actually the complete absence of choice. When consistency becomes a system, the battle with your own mind ends before it can even begin. The automated system does not arrive overnight. Before routine becomes a shield, it is a tax. It is the quiet room at 4 a.m. where nothing feels heroic. It is the complete absence of applause. Repetition becomes boring long before it becomes powerful. Human attention naturally drifts toward stimulation. We are wired to seek novelty because novelty feels alive. A new project, a fresh resolution, these spark immediate chemical surges of hope. But that energy is fool's gold. It burns hot and vanishes quickly. The world offers constant, immediate gratification. Social validation pulls focus away from private standards. Every time you choose the quiet, invisible work over public attention, you experience a tiny internal bereavement. You must learn to tolerate these small emotional losses. Consistency demands that you grieve the excitement you are choosing to leave behind. Researchers at University College London tracked this silent transition. They discovered that a new behavior takes an average of 66 days of daily repetition to become automatic. But 66 is merely a median. For some individuals, the neural pathways solidify in 18 days. For others, the system requires 254 days of unbroken execution before the friction fades. Most people abandon the work somewhere in this gray zone, long before the system has time to harden. They mistake the inevitable boredom for failure. They believe they have lost their drive when they have simply run out of novelty. But the ordinary, unglamorous day is where the war is won. The exceptional day is a myth. Consistency is forged in moments of absolute silence, when you choose to repeat the motion anyway. An elite marathoner does not chase the high of a breakthrough workout. They build their life on easy runs. A 7-year study of world-class runners revealed a stark reality. The volume of slow, low-intensity training explained 72% of their performance variance by year 3 and 68% by year 7. This is not blind volume. It is what psychologist Anders Ericsson defined as deliberate practice. This training is entirely correction-driven. It requires constant feedback, active variability, and precise error adjustment. A concert soloist applies this exact protocol. They do not mindlessly run through an entire sonata. They isolate a 3-second transition, adjusting the pressure of the bow by single millimeters until the friction disappears. They seek the mistake, correct it, and repeat the correction. The runner operates with the same cold precision. They refuse the emotional surge of a high-speed sprint. They reject the temptation to chase peaks or satisfy ego during a Tuesday morning workout. Instead, they choose the monotonous, slow reliability of Zone 1. This boredom tolerance is the ultimate competitive advantage. While others chase the short-lived excitement of a heroic effort, the elite mind steps onto the track simply to execute a repeatable standard. They do not need to feel inspired to move. Year after year, the invisible compounding of these quiet, unrewarded hours builds an engine that refuses to break. Sleep deprivation is not just exhaustion, it is a physical breakdown. After 36 hours without sleep, human manual dexterity drops by 32%, while shooting accuracy plummets by up to 37%. The mind begins to fragment. Yet, under these exact conditions, elite practitioners remain completely steady. A surgeon steps to the scrub sink at dawn, repeating a precise 7-rinse sequence. This is not superstition, it is a biological shield. This silent micro-ritual triggers an immediate physiological reset, lowering cortisol levels by 15% and pulling a racing heart from 81 down to 77 beats per minute. The hands stop shaking. In the freezing rain of a special ops selection, a candidate executes a familiar weapon check cadence. The environment is chaotic, but the routine is unyielding. These micro-rituals do not solve the fatigue, they insulate the mind from it. When the prefrontal cortex is starved of energy, these automated loops offload the mental tax, keeping panic at bay. Pressure does not build consistency. It is a cold, indifferent filter that destroys everything except what you have already automated. When the breakdown comes, your emotions will betray you. Your willpower will fail you. What survives the strain is not your motivation. It is your trained sequence. This automated sequence operates as a mirror. Durable consistency demands a structural transformation, shifting from external action to internal self-concept. James Clear framed this as identity-based behavior. Every executed routine is a direct vote cast for the person you believe you are. Under Benabou and Tirol's self-signaling theory, your brain acts as a silent observer, monitoring your actions to infer your true character. When you show up, you send proof of your identity to yourself. A skipped ritual breaks more than a streak. It compromises the internal narrative. The elite survive because they stop negotiating with fleeting emotions and begin operating from an unyielding self-definition. Neuroscientist Amy Arnsten discovered that acute stress floods the brain with catecholamines, taking the prefrontal cortex offline. The conscious space required for deliberate choice dissolves. When willpower is chemically paralyzed, your brain defaults to its deepest pathways. Donald Hebb and Eric Kandel's research maps this physical architecture. Repeated actions trigger synaptic plasticity, stimulating myelination to wrap nerve fibers in insulating sheaths. This biological armor accelerates signal transmission. Under extreme pressure, you do not rise to the occasion, you fall back on these myelinated highways. The trained sequence outlasts conscious control. This protective architecture is not reserved for physical arenas. In the quiet war of cognitive work, an elite founder refuses to rely on the volatility of creative surges. Instead, they design workspaces that eliminate choice, backed by unyielding public accountability contracts. When exhaustion paralyzes willpower, the environment itself forces the behavior. This is the silent reality of a protected system. Structure defeats mood. Ritual outlasts inspiration. But this reliability demands a real emotional price. You must willingly surrender the dopamine highs of temporary excitement in exchange for the cold, unglamorous certainty of daily execution. Do not negotiate with your feelings. Guard the identity, not the mood. The quiet negotiation with your feelings is the only war that matters. Consistency is not a skill, it is an identity. When exhaustion hits tonight, the standard remains. Who will make the call? Share your thoughts below and subscribe to join us.